Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to Chinese comfort food classics with yet another addition to our ever-growing collection of fried rice recipes, with my very best shot at one of these golden fried rices that have been floating around the internet lately. For those not familiar, a golden fried rice is, like pretty much every other fried rice, a medley of veggies and proteins tossed together in a wok using dried leftover rice to yield the pebbly, grainy, wonderful rice texture that we all know and love. Today we're going to be making ours using some Chinese lapchang sausage and baby bok choy, which are easily two of my favorite additions to a fried rice. Our golden fried rice, however, has one unique addition wherein the eggs that we would traditionally scramble before tossing into the rice will instead be stripped down to their yolks, then mixed off heat to coat our rice, yielding the dish's gorgeous golden color. Then next, to round this all out, because I have a sneaking suspicion that, like many fried rices that I've had, our dish is going to be fairly bland on its own, we're also going to assemble a light acid-forward sauce element to pair with our rice, which, if done correctly, won't bias the color of our golden hue too much. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so diving right in, we're kicking things off here first with the aromatic veggies of our fried rice, which today will be 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic to start, followed by 1 inch of fine minced ginger and the whites of 3 green onions sliced up thinly. Then, as always, whenever possible, we're going to reserve these leafy greens of our green onions, slice them up thinly on a bias, and set them aside for our final finishing garnish. Next up, moving on to our bok choy. As we often do, this is some baby bok choy that I'm using today, which is about half the size of a full-grown bok choy and a slightly lighter shade of green than the more bitter jade-colored full-grown bok choy. We're slicing these up into nice bite-sized quarters to suit our fried rice, then giving a quick rinse before setting aside and diving into our lapchang next. Moving on to our sausages next, we're doing a medium dice to our lapchang here to pair with our rice. Like most sausages, lapchang is packed full of pork fat, which is going to help give us a nice tender piece of sausage. Lapchang is also par-cooked in a smoke before it's packaged, so we won't be overly concerned with cooking these through during the wok cook, and instead more focused on making use of this wonderful pork fat. Next up, moving on to our sauce element. Now, a golden fried rice is iconically defined, as you might guess, by its golden color. This means that we want to be very careful with incorporating any sauce elements here, or else we might end up with more of a brownish red fried rice, which is significantly less attractive. So, to that end, our focus with the elements in our sauce today is going to be on keeping it light and bright, and we're definitely not just going to dump the entire thing in either. I know a lot of you have a habit of doing this, which, stop doing that. Season to taste, y'all. So anyway, up here first is 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of soy sauce to start, followed by a single tablespoon of sesame oil and 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine. Then next, this is a single tablespoon of hoisin sauce, and finally rounding this all out is 2 tablespoons of chili crisp oil. We're mixing this all up to combine, then setting aside while we move on to our egg yolks next. Alright, so those that have been to the Woo Can Cook fried rice pop-up should know that the first thing that we do in any fried rice is scramble the eggs first, so that we end up with nice curds of egg in our rice. This is maybe one of the more iconic parts of any fried rice, I think. For our golden rice, though, we are instead essentially doing the exact opposite. This is 4 egg yolks that we're separating from their whites, then whisking to combine. Go ahead and save these egg whites for your whiskey sours later on. Then next, this is 2 cups of leftover rice that I've cooked and dried out for 24 hours after cooking, or if you're working with actually leftover rice, this is about 24 ounces of cooked rice. I'm donning some gloves, then getting my hands nice and wet so that we may dive in and break up these clumps of rice into a nice loose grain, then adding in my egg yolks plus about a half teaspoon of turmeric. Now, I know we're cheating here just a little bit, but our turmeric is going to give us just a little bit of help in creating our golden tint to our rice, which will be particularly helpful once we add our sauce element later on as well. I'm mixing this all up until our rice is fully coated to a nice golden color, then we're heading over to the stove. Over on the stove, I have my wok heating up as hot as possible, then I'm adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil and, as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then going in here first are my aromatic veggies. Here's my garlic, ginger, and the whites of my green onions going in. We're sauteing this for 15 seconds until nice and fragrant before following up with our lapchang next. As I mentioned earlier, there's a whole bunch of now exposed pork fat in our lapchang here, so I'm giving this a toss for 2 to 3 minutes to let some of that fat start rendering out before following up with my bok choy. We're tossing this all for another 1 to 2 minutes until the leafy portion of that bok choy starts to wilt a little bit, then following up finally with our rice. I'm using an overhand grip on my spatula here to break up any larger clumps of rice still hanging around, while also tossing to fully incorporate everything. I'm also working on a slightly higher BTU gas range here, which is helping us retain heat in our wok today. For those cooking on electric ranges or even lower BTU gas ranges, however, if you notice at this point that your rice is getting mushy or your wok isn't sizzling anymore, you may consider emptying half of this out and cooking in smaller batches to keep your wok nice and hot. Last up, here's my sauce element going in. One more reminder to season here to taste. If you don't end up using all of this sauce, you can serve it on the table for folks, but we're also being very mindful of the golden tint to our rice today. Once this is fully combined, I'm removing from heat, finishing with the greens of my green onions, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so as the resident purveyor of fried rice at pretty much every brewery and bar that will let me cook in their space here in Oakland, I think I can confidently say that I have cooked well over 10,000 bowls of fried rice at this point, which is a weird accomplishment. That said, this is also one of the more unusual fried rices that I have come across, mainly because our rice is thoroughly coated in egg yolk, which is pretty strange. To be absolutely honest, I don't think that the egg yolks contributed much to flavor or texture today. If anything, I think it actually made it a little bit harder to keep the moisture down in the rice. That said, ultimately, I think this also ended up pairing really nicely with our choice of lapchang and bok choy, which are just about 2 of the most aromatic elements that I can think of to put in a fried rice. Then our sauce element is bright with a hint of heat from our chili crisp that adds just enough umami to our dish without distracting from our golden color. At the end of the day, like many of the other internet trends that I've touched on, I think that the plating of our dish really steals the show here because, let's face it, this is a pretty good YouTube thumbnail. Practically speaking though, if you're feeling lazy or if you just don't care, you could also skip the eggs entirely and you'll still end up with a very tasty lapchang fried rice. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series that we've been doing that's dedicated to classic Chinese dishes, so definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, the Wu Can Cook Fried Rice pop-up is now at Wondrous Brewing in Emeryville every Thursday through Sunday, so come by and say hi if you can. More about that at wucancook.com/eats. Also, a fun update, we've got t-shirts. I'm super excited to be partnering with my good friends at Pollywog Prints to make these sweet Wu Can Cook shirts. They're super soft and comfortable, and also there's a picture of me on the back, which is crazy. We're selling these at the Wu Can Cook pop-up, or you can head over to wucancook.com/shop to grab one from the online store too. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice YouTubers, and I'll see you soon. Bye.